December 4, 1872. In the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, a lone ship drifted silently across the endless sea. From a distance, it looked like nothing more than an ordinary merchant vessel, but as another ship slowly approached, an unsettling truth began to emerge, one that would become one of the greatest maritime mysteries in history. The ship was still alive. Its sails were filled with the wind. Food and fresh water were still on board. The captain's belongings remained untouched. The crew's personal possessions were exactly where they should have been, but one thing was missing: people. Not a single living soul was on board. It looked as though everyone had left only moments earlier, but one question echoed through the silence. Why would anyone abandon a perfectly seaworthy ship in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean? And an even bigger question remained: what happened to the 10 people aboard the Mary Celeste? This is the story of a ship that remains one of the greatest maritime mysteries ever recorded, a mystery that, even after more than 150 years, has never been truly solved. This is the story of the Mary Celeste. The 19th century was an age when the sea was far more than a route between nations. It was the thin line between life and death. Ships carried people, goods, and fortunes across continents, connecting the world through dangerous oceans. But the sea was never predictable. A calm horizon could transform into a violent storm within minutes. Towering waves, unpredictable weather, and difficult navigation made every voyage a gamble. Among the countless merchant vessels sailing those waters was an American brigantine known as the Mary Celeste. Weighing 282 tons, she was built to transport cargo across the Atlantic. In 1872, she was commanded by an experienced and highly respected captain, Benjamin Briggs. Briggs had spent most of his life at sea. He wasn't reckless. He wasn't inexperienced. He was known for his sound judgment, calm decision-making, and deep understanding of the ocean. Few people were better qualified to command a voyage like this. In November 1872, Captain Briggs prepared for another routine journey. His destination was Genoa, Italy. The Mary Celeste carried a valuable cargo of 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol. It was supposed to be an ordinary commercial voyage. On board were Captain Briggs, his wife Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter Sophia, and 7 crew members. A total of 10 people. None of them could have imagined that this journey would become their last known voyage. On November 7, 1872, the Mary Celeste departed from New York Harbor. At first, everything appeared completely normal. The ship followed its planned course. The crew carried out their daily routines. Captain Briggs focused on guiding the vessel safely across the Atlantic. Then, somewhere in the vast expanse of the ocean, something happened. To this day, no one knows exactly what it was. Weeks later, the Mary Celeste simply disappeared. No distress signal, no warning, no message explaining what had happened, only silence. Nearly a month later, on December 4, 1872, a British merchant ship called the Dei Gratia was sailing through the Atlantic. Its captain was David Morehouse, an acquaintance of Benjamin Briggs. The crew of the Dei Gratia spotted another vessel in the distance. Something about it seemed unusual. The ship wasn't maintaining a steady course. Its movements looked strange. Believing the vessel might be in trouble, the crew sailed closer. As they approached, they realized they were looking at the Mary Celeste. When the crew of the Dei Gratia boarded the ship, they discovered a scene that would puzzle the world for generations. The Mary Celeste had been abandoned, but she wasn't destroyed. There was no major structural damage, no clear signs of violence, no bodies, no bloodstains. The captain's navigation equipment was present. The crew's personal belongings had been left behind. The captain's log contained its last known entry on November 24th, while a navigation slate recorded a position for November 25th. What happened after that remains unknown. Nothing suggested that pirates had looted the ship, yet one crucial thing was missing: the lifeboat. And that single missing lifeboat became the heart of the mystery. If the crew had abandoned the ship, why? An experienced captain would leave a seaworthy vessel only if staying aboard seemed even more dangerous. So, what happened on the Mary Celeste? Was there an unseen danger lurking at sea? Did a sudden mechanical or environmental crisis force them to flee? Or did Captain Briggs make a decision that unknowingly sealed the fate of everyone on board? The Mary Celeste had finally been found. found. But the real mystery was only just beginning. The salvage case was heard in Gibraltar after the ship was brought there by the salvors. Authorities carefully examined every corner of the ship, searching for anything that might explain why the crew had abandoned it. But the more they investigated, the more confusing the mystery became. There was nothing on board that could provide a clear explanation. No signs of an attack, no evidence of a major accident, no final message, no note explaining the captain's decision, only silence. The first and most important question was simple. Why would Captain Benjamin Briggs abandon his ship? In the 19th century, leaving a seaworthy vessel was an extraordinary decision. Out in the open ocean, a sturdy ship offered the greatest chance of survival. A small lifeboat was far more dangerous. That's why investigators struggled to understand why an experienced captain like Briggs would ever make such a choice. What could have been more terrifying than staying aboard the Mary Celeste? One of the leading theories is known as the alcohol barrel theory. The Mary Celeste was carrying 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol. Many historians believe that a number of those barrels may have leaked. 9 barrels were found empty, likely because they had been made from porous red oak, allowing the alcohol to evaporate over time. The escaping alcohol vapors could have created the fear of a catastrophic explosion. Captain Briggs may have believed that the safest option was to temporarily evacuate the ship. If that happened, it might explain why everyone boarded the lifeboat. But another question immediately follows. If the evacuation was only meant to be temporary, why did they never return? Another theory points to the weather. The Atlantic Ocean has always been known for its unpredictable conditions. Perhaps Captain Briggs believed the ship was in immediate danger. Perhaps rough seas or unexpected conditions convinced him that abandoning the vessel was the only way to save everyone on board. But there was one major problem with that theory. The Mary Celeste never sank. She continued drifting across the Atlantic, and if the lifeboat became separated from the ship, the people inside would have had almost no chance of surviving the open ocean. Some believed the ship had fallen victim to pirates. During the 19th century, piracy was a very real threat, but the evidence didn't support that theory. There were no signs of looting. The captain's personal belongings were still there. Valuable items had been left untouched. Most of the cargo remained on board. If pirates had attacked the ship, they would almost certainly have taken something, yet nothing suggested that had happened. Another possibility was conflict among the crew. Perhaps an argument had escalated into mutiny, but once again, there was no evidence to support that idea, and that was the greatest frustration of the Mary Celeste mystery. Every theory seemed to answer one question only to create another. Not a single explanation could account for every piece of evidence, but the investigation didn't end there. After the Mary Celeste was brought to Gibraltar, authorities carried out an even more detailed inquiry. Every piece of evidence was carefully examined. Every possibility was considered, yet one disturbing fact remained. The crew had left behind no distress message. No journal entry explained why they abandoned the ship. No final note revealed what Captain Briggs had been thinking. For investigators, that made the mystery even more difficult to understand. Benjamin Briggs was an experienced sailor. He was not the kind of captain who would abandon his ship without a compelling reason. Some modern researchers believe that Briggs may have mistaken a temporary danger for a fatal one. If he feared an explosion caused by leaking alcohol vapors, he may have ordered everyone into the lifeboat while waiting for the danger to pass. It may have seemed like the safest decision at the time, but the Atlantic Ocean waits for no one. A small lifeboat alone in the open sea would have been dangerously vulnerable to wind, waves, and powerful currents. The saddest part of the story is this: the Mary Celeste completed the journey that her passengers never could. The ship survived, but the people aboard simply disappeared. No confirmed trace of Captain Briggs, his family, or any member of the crew has ever been found. No final piece of evidence, no definitive answer, no conclusion that could finally solve the mystery. As the years passed, the Mary Celeste became more than just a ship. She became a legend. Newspapers around the world published the story. Writers, historians, and storytellers offered their own explanations. Some called her a ghost ship. Others described her as the greatest mystery the sea had ever known. But one fact remains unchanged. There has never been any credible evidence that anything supernatural happened aboard the Mary Celeste. The mystery survives because the truth may have been surprisingly ordinary, but the only people who knew what really happened never came back. Even today, when people hear the name Mary Celeste, they imagine the same haunting scene: a lonely ship drifting silently across the Atlantic Ocean, a ship that still carried everything except the people who had sailed her. What happened to Captain Benjamin Briggs, his family, and his crew remains hidden somewhere beneath the waves. Did they abandon the ship to escape an unseen danger? Did the Atlantic Ocean claim them forever? Or is there another truth, one that history will never reveal? Perhaps we'll never know. Because some stories are never truly written into history. They become mysteries that time refuses to solve, and the Mary Celeste remains one of them, a ghost ship that was found but never gave up its greatest secret.